So there are three files here, and they are basically the abstract files that I'd like to show you to get you prepared for the midterm. At this time that I'm recording this, I'm making this a midterm project. And the idea here is that you're going to create some abstract files using the techniques that I've been showing you, making custom brushes, using layer styles, and using some of the other techniques that we've been talking about, like layer masks, which is what's going on over here. Okay, now these files are from Art Student 411, and currently they're in the week 4 area, but again, your mileage may vary depending on which quarter you're looking in this video. But basically, I'm going to just show you one of these and kind of give you a little analysis on what this is. And what I call this is really advanced playing around. This is about experimentation. Up to now, you've done a lot of chapter work, doing the chapters and doing the exercise files, and you've done some creative work. This is just total get weird and make cool stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to close up some of this stuff. There we go. And you can see a lot of layers going on here. Now, there are parameters for this abstract art that you need to look up in Art Student 411, because again, the rules may have changed by the time you watch this video. So this is kind of a general look at how I've done this. And by the way, I did this for my own Photoshop class. When I was taking a Photoshop class, we were doing some abstract art, and I came up with this stuff. So what I'm going to do is isolate a few layers here. Now, I isolate this way. I hold down the Option key, or that's the Alt key in Windows, and I'm going to click on the visibility of this guy down here at the bottom, the Layer 0 copy. And what it does is it just turns off everything else and just leaves this one on. And you can see that there's actually a few things. If you've been through the layer styles video and the some of the custom brushes, you can see that there's a lot going on here, and this is one of the few times that I've probably worked destructively. I wound up having to take several layers and layer styles and put them together into one flattened layer. Okay, and sometimes you have to do that depending on the circumstances. So I just built from that point. Now I added a gradient fill that's over here, and that covers it, so it's not quite as bright and in your face. And the next layer is layer 19. Now, let me isolate this layer and take a look at what's happening here. Now, that's just the one layer. Now, let's turn off a few things. I'll hit the Shift key and click on the layer mask, so that turns that off. And then I'm turning off the pattern overlay effect. And you can see that this is pretty much just a flat color. It's just like this kind of beigey feel. And then what I did was I added this pattern effect, which has that burlap thing going on there. And then I didn't want my entire layer to have the burlap effect. I only wanted parts of it. So what I did was I put a black layer mask on here and then painted some white little circles. And that's what I've got. So it only shows in a certain space. Okay? And then I'll turn those two layers back on, and now we're back in business. And we'll just kind of keep on going. This started out, I'm sure, as just a circular paintbrush, and I started drawing kind of a frame, and then this one has a drop shadow on it, so you can see how that is affected. And by the way, these files are on they are on Art Student 411, so that you can download these files and do what I'm doing. You turn layers on and off, you look at them, you analyze what's going on, and you can use that kind of thing to maybe inspire your own artwork. So this is one of those brushes that has multiple colors going on and changing sizes. I don't think there's much in the way of flattening out or rotating. This one's kind of a fun layer, which the way this is like a oil paint maybe, or maybe acrylic, and there's kind of a pattern that goes, and quite honestly, I don't remember how I did that. And but this does have a bevel and emboss effect going on there, and I think that's maybe where the that effect came from. So moving on, we're just adding, so this one is some circles that are using I believe yeah, it's using color burn up here. And then some more circles. And I have no idea what that one is. It looks like a fish mouth. I have no idea. This next one is one of my favorite layers. So I'll isolate this. Notice what's happening here. It does have a drop shadow, so I can turn that on and off. And if you think about it, it's really just a series of ellipses, flattened circles. And I remember using the tablet attached to my computer. So I started off with very low pressure, and as I came around this way, I started adding more pressure, until right about here it had maximum pressure, and then kind of eased off a bit. This one is, again, we're mixing up a lot of colors, so randomizing the color dynamics. A lot of fun. I mean, that's the kind of thing you can add. Let's keep on going up here. I can't see that one, so I'm pretty sure the opacity is very low, so let me turn that one up. And what that is, it's a grungy texture brush. So if you were to go over to your brush tool and take a look at some of the old grungy brushes, it's probably this one here, or something like that. These are all kind of similar grunge, dirt and slime and whatnot. So I'll drop this back down to what it was before, 36%. Next one is kind of a Reiki brush. The next layer also has a Reiki brush that you can see a lot more clearly. Looks like a rake. There's some wavy little things there. Let's see, what is that? Now, since this layer clearly has things there that are semi-transparent, and yet the layer itself doesn't have any transparency, and I'm not using any blend modes, this was probably a case where I turned the opacity down on the brush itself. So unfortunately, I typically don't tend to do that. I tend to turn down the opacity on the layer where I have more control, because I can go back and change that. If I've done this kind of a thing with the brush tool, I can't go back and fix that if I want to change the opacity. That was fun. Now there's 4 groups here, and these are big circles. Let me turn on all 4 of these at the same time. So what I did there was I created some circles and copies and changed their size and kind of laid them on top of one another, and then I duplicated that at the 4 corners with differing opacities and colors. And then there's one here at the top. I like this layer quite a bit as well. This one started out, and I'll turn off a few things here. Shift, and then I'll turn the effect off. So if we isolate this layer, it's just this painted blob. Not much going on there. Okay, now I'll turn on the effects. Now there we go. There's bevel and emboss, which makes it gives you that edge there. And there's a drop shadow going on. Okay, but I also painted some layer mask in there, so it basically cut some holes in these shapes. So I'll turn this back on, and there you go. And for the top layer, the top layer is a clipping mask, and what it effectively does is it paints all over this layer, but it only shows inside the layer over here. Now, let me see if I can undo this one. I will ungroup it. They changed I have to do it this way. They changed how they did that in Adobe. Is it that one? There it is. So I can cancel that. There we go. So now this layer really looks like this. And you can see that it actually overlaps, and it looks like it's just kind of this hairy little shape. But once I hold down the Option key and then click on that line between these 2 layers, layer 5 will become a child, so to speak, of layer 4. And that clips off anything. So basically, here's the rule. Layer 5 is now visible wherever layer 4 is visible and has visible pixels. That's the rule. Layer 5 is now visible where you see layer 4. Doesn't overlap. Okay? So use this guide. I'm now going to set this back to revert back to the original thing here. So you add all those layers together, and there's a lot of stuff. Now at this point, I can tell you that the midterm is you're going to create 2 files, high quality files. Please look at Art Student 401 for the details. And you're going to be creating at this time it's currently a minimum of 15 layers, but a maximum of 30 layers. So you've got kind of a wide range. You would have to create 3 custom brushes, and then you need to have layer styles on at least 10 of the layers on your file. and you're creating two files. So hopefully these two files will look drastically different. But this is where you get to be creative as possible and make some wacky stuff. And hopefully you'll make it abstract enough so that, people can't make heads or tail of it. It's supposed to be aesthetically pleasing. Okay? So that's where we are. Good luck.